So we talked about this team a couple weeks ago here on the pod, but we do have one team playing for a state championship this week, and that would be the Methodist Home Bulldogs. They go to play for the TCAF state title in six-man. DJ, you got a chance to go to MCH and talk to those guys this week. What were just your impressions?
Well, overall, I think that whatever Scott Drew touches turns to gold, apparently.
Matt Rodgers is
There's
a former Baylor basketball manager, right?
Yeah, he used to be a former Baylor basketball manager when Scott Drew first came over, then was a GA before coming out to coach the Bulldogs. And, obviously, first of all, beautiful campus. I've always driven past it and I never really knew what it was until you sent me there. And, I had to drive all the way to the back to find the football field. Even though there was a gate in the back of the football field, I just didn't know where it was. But in terms of football, I mean, obviously they're pretty good. They're playing for a state championship, and just the way, like, there's only 17 kids on the team.
Which isn't bad for six-man.
Yeah, I feel like a pretty good number for that size, for that level. And I talked to Lyndon Bickham also, and you can just tell that these kids are just out there playing for each other and, playing for the love of the game. And I think that's kind of gone a long way. And in terms of the game that they're playing this week, they've also got a lot of motivation because Decatur Victory, they beat them last season by like 50 points to like end their season. And so they're kind of looking for a little bit of payback. And
and this year MCH is 10-1, Decatur Victory 8-2. One thing about that game last year, of course, they would not have had Lyndon Bickham on the field. He missed most of last season, if not all of it.
I think he got injured.
And so I mean, he clearly, if we're just going by stats and probably what Matt Rodgers would say, I think is probably their best guy, but they got I feel like a lot of talent on that team. If you look at the stats and what they've done this year and the way they've performed, I mean, I think MCH has a good chance to bring home its second state championship under Matt Rodgers.
Yeah. Overall, it was just a really good conversation with both of them. I rarely get interviews sometimes with teenagers where I feel like good about the interview, because sometimes I feel like I have anxiety talking to them because I know that they're going to have anxiety talking to me, and we don't always get the best answers. So, but it was a pretty good interview with both.
A lot of nervous energy flying around then.
Yeah, I get it. Chad, you look like you had something to say.
Yeah, I'm going to do something. I'm going to say positive things about two different unrelated organizations, which, I don't say a whole lot of positive things. So here we go. Methodist Children's Home is one of the great organizations in Texas. It's a long stand in Waco, Texas, in particular. It's a long-standing group. We talk about football here and Methodist Children's Home football, and they're good all the time. But what this organization does, they essentially save kids' lives in a lot of ways. And it's probably don't have 100%, at that. They don't bat 1,000 probably, but they do a lot of good for a lot of kids and have for a long time. And for them to be, playing good in football and playing for a state championship is just awesome. I don't care what organization it is. For them to be having success is fantastic. The other organization I want to say something positive about is sixmanfootball.com. They do an amazing thing that they rank every six-man team in the state every week, and they rank them by division, and they rank them in their Uber rankings, right?
And they do point spreads.
Yeah.
DJ, if you have not been taking advantage of that, I
did not know it existed until.
Yes. You can click on those point spreads every week, and we're not gonna tell you the secret sauce of our picks every week, DJ.
Yeah.
But But
But
yeah,
I go by the Uber rankings, and this week in the Uber rankings, Methodist Children's Home is 40th among all organizations. So, most of those in the top 40 are public schools, the likes of Abbott and Oglesby and Jonesboro from around here, and, the very best in the state. And MCH is sitting there at 40. I'm the highest ranked team in their division, one of the highest ranked private schools, period. And they're ranked well ahead of Decatur. So that makes them the favorite. I actually don't use the point spreads. What is the point spread on that game this week, Bryce? Do you know?
let me look. Remember? I can look it up real quick. I think I have it up actually. Let's see. Methodist Home is favored by 20.
Okay, so there you go.
There you go.
There you go.
MCH is the favorite if you're going by sixmanfootball.com. Yeah, I'll briefly talk about that very well-run website. Started by Granger Huntress back in the infancy of the internet, and has been kind of the Bible of six-man football in Texas for the better part of 20 years or more. I think he has since Granger has passed that off to some other guys. They've taken up that because, I know he had another real job, I remember
he announced his retirement from it, right?
Yeah. I remember meeting Granger. So Chad, this was the famous game where I went to San Angelo via Abilene. Took a little bit of a wrong turn as I was chomping on my barbecue sandwich, but getting a barbecue stain on my white t-shirt. But yeah.
Why do you own white t-shirts?
It was,
that's not a great move on your wardrobe thinking, right? You should never have anything that's just white because
that was a song lyric, you moron.
Oh.
My reference was far less obscure than yours was. Anyway, is it Tim McGraw? Barbecue stain on a white t-shirt. Anyway, yes, it was Calvert Sanderson, 2002 state championship game. We used to cover Calvert, DJ. And I went to San Angelo for a state championship game. And that was the first time I met Granger. But they do an amazing job covering six-man football. And so shout out to sixmanfootball.com. I was interested to see where you were going with the two organizations you were going to shout out. MCH made a lot of sense. I didn't expect it to be Baylor basketball, but I was wondering to see where that might go.
Well, I'm all for promoting Baylor basketball these days. More on that later.
Okay. One quick word on the reference DJ made earlier to Scott Drew and Matt Rodgers. Matt Rodgers was a manager at Baylor basketball. Again, this is going to just please the Texas Tech guys so much that we're praising Baylor and Scott Drew, but they did a cool thing when they won the national championship, and that is they did like a t-shirt or a plaque or something. I think there was a t-shirt where they listed the name of every one of their managers, players, assistant coaches, GAs, through the Scott Drew years. And obviously it, and I think they spelled out, whatever, what year did they win? 21. Maybe they spelled it out 21, and Matt Rodgers' name was on there, of course. But, I thought that was a cool thing to give a little shout out to all people that weren't involved in the current national championship team, but helped build it up, build up the program. So nice little shout out.
My one of my best friends, who was actually my first editor when I started at the Lariat, Ben Everett, when he graduated, he moved on to study sports management and became a manager for Scott Drew, and was there when they won the national title. So
Matt Rodgers was as well. I saw him. In fact, I did a fan story and went out to the concourse of the stadium, and I ran into Matt Rodgers at the national championship game in Indianapolis. And so I interviewed Matt about, watching them win and stuff. So that was cool.